What is going on, everybody? It is Bobby Bean's Santa Claus edition coming to you live from the Let's Legalize Wisconsin compound, aka my basement with a cool backdrop. Give me 2 seconds here. I got to share. Facebook is being extra offended lately as far as talking about plants. So we got to kind of work around that, circumvent it. Give me 2 seconds, and I need to get this on here. Oh, man, people are crazy out there. Want to give a quick shout out. We're running a little slow this night. Thank you to Ignite Dispensary. I got a chance to stop out by our buddies in Spooner. Awesome shop, awesome folks. The most drinks I've seen by far. And it is a beautiful setup up there. They're also located in a couple places across the state. But if you can find them, make sure you check them out. It's kind of like a slash all the way across, starting up in Hayward. So shout out to Ignite Dispensary. Shout out to Carbon Cannabis. I'm going to be doing some like reviews on their stuff, similar to what we've done in the past. Both definitely are getting the job done. And if you think hemp is funny business, again, we're trying to find the places that have found a few new little tricks to be able to do what they're doing. We'll leave it at that on YouTube so we don't get in trouble. We also want to give a shout out. Oh, Ignite gave me some Burnout mix. It is infused Chex Mix. Delicious, effective. I can definitely verify that. And then also the Pirate Pipe, man. I forgot about this. Shout out to those guys over at the Pirate Pipe. This thing is so cool, dude. It's got your lighter. It's like in this setup. You pop this button. Whoop, pops up. You got like a decent sized one hitter. You got a little stash spot. This is made out of some kind of heavy metal, alloy something, if I had to guess. That's my geology in me guessing, if that's even the right word. I know it's not biology. That's about all I know. Hey, Danny, happy birthday, man. 42 trips around the sun. Let's go. Hopefully you got a little Wonka to end your evening with this evening. I also see our Twitter feed is going bonkers, but it's not counting. And we're not seeing comments from Twitter. Apologize about that. Facebook's usually our best one for being able to talk to folks, but it is not working with us at this moment. So apologize about that. It's always something. Randy's in the house. Thanks for stopping out, Randy. Appreciate you guys. I want to introduce you to tonight's guest. Before some folks say, oh my gosh, you're letting people from Michigan into the... Bro, these are just chill people from Michigan and Ohio. Nobody's looking to take over Wisconsin. Sometimes we get folks very passionate and concerned about out-of-staters. The good news is these people aren't from Illinois, okay? Those are the only people I really have beef with until they prove me they're not from like Illinois, if that makes sense. So no, these guys are pretty cool. I saw Ashley. You see lots of feeds of other people that are in the cannabis sector, obviously. And every once in a while, there's people that like, okay, this person kind of seems to get it. So that's how I found her. And then I think she knows Chris. So let's get these guys in here. I'm chilling with some Wonka now. Hey, Nutty's got the Wonka. Let's get it. Danny's got the black cherry. Let's get it. All right, let's get these folks in here and let's get them introduced. Excuse me. First up, we got Ashley from Smashley's Gardens. How's it going, Ashley? Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And you were from the Michigan resident, correct?
Yes. Yep.
All right, cool. We're doing a little Midwestern flow to tonight's episode. So let me get Chris in here as well. Chris, how we doing, sir?
Pretty good. What's going on?
Awesome. Just a little elevated and then chatting with the people, man. That's how we love to do it around here. Let me get this shared because it's being silly. All right, Ashley, if you want to just tell us a little bit about kind of your background, what got you into cannabis, as far as like personal consumption, when you kind of found that it was something that you enjoyed, and then when did you decide to get into plants too? I know that's kind of your jam in general. So.
Yeah. So I think I got into plants first before cannabis specifically, but gosh, what got me into it? I've always loved nature. I've always been into it. Farm girl at heart, even though I kind of grew up in town / kind of city, not really city. Anyways, always loved plants. Cannabis, I actually have never been a rebel with it. I didn't actually start smoking it until it was legal in Michigan. So only like a little over 6 years. But it was kind of just a night when friends were over and I was with my husband and them, obviously. So I didn't know if what was going to happen because I was raised in a household of it was a no. It was the devil's lettuce and it was looked down upon severely. So I tried it anyway, and lo and behold, it took away some major back pain that I had at the time. And I had, I think, 2 kids at the time it became legal. And yeah, I was really overweight and had some severe health problems, and it started helping me with my back pain. So I was actually able to get up and move a little bit more. So that kind of intrigued me, I think, and started opening my mind up a little bit more. Like, if this was taught to me as bad, but it's really helping me, then what else out there can help me? So then, lo and
Yeah.
behold, this show came along called Alone, and there's this lady, Nicole Apelian, on there, and she um, really knew her plants, and I just wanted to be like her. I was like, she can forage anything, and she knows what's nutritious out there, and everyone else is struggling finding food.
Sure.
So super cool.
Yeah.
And so she had a book that I had gotten, and I've just since I've had kids, I've always been reading them and just really intrigued by plants and the healing powers of it. Never been one to join the pharmaceutical world. Had a lot of issues with being prescribed antidepressants and anti-anxiety medication. So
Sure.
it kind of made it a lot worse, and it was annoying. So I quit them slowly and kind of off and on, and they kept wanting to up it more, and it was just a downhill and uphill battle, roller coaster ride. So that's when this plant also came along. So it kind of all lined up perfectly to kind of intertwine together into helping me heal and learn about plants and aid in my own health issues that I was having. Yeah. And
That's were you doing so did you start with when you learned about the foraging and stuff, you had already been dabbling into cannabis?
yeah, so it
Okay.
all kind of like lined up together. Yeah.
Cool. So then it was like, well, maybe before I start trying to grow cannabis, I'll start with some plants and just kind of add that in the mix. Okay, very cool. Yeah, I could definitely get down with that. Similar situation here. As far as we could talk so long about so many people who seem to get misdiagnosed.
Yeah.
But in that misdiagnosis, they try all these different man-made things that are tens to hundreds of thousands of dollars per injection, and
Yeah.
some pretty scary stuff. So glad you were able to kind of find your journey and find a place, and especially because it sounds like it comes from like your happiness, or like
Yeah.
it wasn't like you grew up and just this was the work that you were stuck with and you're in it. You kind of found it, and you said you found it reading a book too. Like,
Yep.
I definitely get that having kids now. Like
Right.
the phone ain't the same. Like, I need something else. So
Yep.
I felt that. So that's really neat that you found a kind of journey and have been able to live that out. So awesome. Thanks for joining. We got the hard questions are coming up. So if you're not sweating yet, get ready. Bring the hard questions, y'all. Come on now. Chris, we're going to kick it over to you, my man. Chris, you're down in Ohio, correct?
Correct. Yep. I'm down in the southwest corner, just north of Cincinnati.
Oh, okay. Do you guys have a football team down there or no?
The Bengals, yeah. Cincinnati Bengals.
Come on now. I was being a dick. I'm sorry. I'm usually not a dick, but I'm in Green Bay, so we take, Cincinnati. It's not as bad as Minnesota per se, but we don't have to play too often. But y'all got a good squad down there. But no,
I'll be honest with you. My girl is the NFL fan. I'm not a big fan. I'm usually too busy this in the season to be enjoying any of it. So
no, that's
she's
fair
a
enough,
huge fan though. She goes to almost every game down here.
Oh, cool. No, that's awesome, man. Could you tell us a little bit kind of about your journey? It looks like you might be dabbling into growing yourself a little bit there with the old black tent with the green trim on it. Pretty sharp, pretty sharp. That's good. I mean, some of us collect tents and we can't remember which one's the cannabis. So I appreciate that you keep it green over there. But no, what kind of sparked your just kind of your personal journey with cannabis, and then also what was kind of led you to growing?
So kind of the same but different as Ashley. I grew up in the country. My mom was single. I was always helping garden, and that's kind of where I got my green thumb originally. And then I did not first get introduced to cannabis on a level of like as I was older. I was actually very young. I was like 14, 15. And I started with it just because my friends were, man. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And I liked it. So, I mean, I went that route with it. And then from an early age, I started growing it. And then as I got older, just continued doing it. And then as I kind of got, late 20s, I actually ended up incarcerated for a while over a couple of things I did. But then in my mid 20s, I was out and done of all that, and kind of got a little more serious, put the growing down for a while, and went into the real world, I guess. Got a job, went to work every day, did that for a long time. um, I was actually in a management position for a local automotive repair facility, and I worked for them, man, for like 13, 15 years, something like that. And finally, I came across some property up in the upper part of the mitten of Michigan, and got it on a really good deal, and ended up grabbing that with some money that I had saved up from doing my thing. And then in September of 22, I ended up quitting my job. Uh, and I walked away from that and was just gonna like follow this dream I kind of had after I met up with GrowFam, which was on this property, just become self-sufficient, sustainable, self-reliant, little homestead idea. And then we know, obviously, Michigan, the whole cannabis rec law for what you can grow there. I take advantage of that. So I have a greenhouse outdoors that I do. We do our limit on, and I've been doing that for 2 years now. And I live down here in Ohio, so obviously we went rec legal this past year. December of last year, they voted that in. The
Gotcha.
funny part about Ohio's part, though, is that it went rec legal, and we were allowed to grow at home. We were given our plant count numbers, which were 6 and 6 for a total of 12 for the whole household.
Okay.
But nobody here was allowed to actually buy it recreationally
Uh,
at any dispensary until like June or
gotcha.
July of 24. Um,
So
so
that's similar. The similar to most of these states, like they think they've got something figured out and in place, and then, or we the consumers, the people, right? We're like, oh, cool, it's legal this day, and then like Minnesota, they're legal, but I can tell you, Wisconsin is selling about 400 times the amount of cannabis they are because there's no regulation here, and they don't
yeah.
even have an actual rec set up yet. So, yeah, it seems to be kind of a common theme, unfortunately. What happened next for you though? Once that kind of
So
started rolling?
well, it was tough, man, to be honest with you, to walk away from the career that I had with the money that I was making. My daughter was born in 2020. um, we went through some series of complications with her when she was first born. She was in the hospital for some surgeries, NICU for like 3.5 months as soon as she was born. So um, by the time we got out of that, COVID was a thing. And then we started the process of in and out of the hospital, back and forth for therapies, um, and all kinds of things. And we got the we got the autism diagnosis, and then we got a Turner syndrome diagnosis, and then it, that kind of hits you all different. But just as golden rule as a man, when your kid was born, you thought differently about going to work every day, the time you spent away from home, right? Like um, I thought about that, but kind of on a bigger scale because it's different for my kids. So I didn't want to be gone. I was working 60, 70 hours a week, and I didn't want to be gone anymore like that. So
Sure.
that's when I kind of started to save the money, put into motion what I wanted to do. I met Ash and Dreadful, and I watched them on their lives at GrowFam for almost a year, and then finally, like ironically, on a Friday night show, like I was just a viewer in the comments, and I said, you guys have a show every night of the week, but you don't have one for Tuesday. I think you should do a show called like Team Talk Tuesday or Talk It Up Tuesday or something. And then right there on that live, they were like, "Dude, get a hold of me." So I did.
That's awesome, man.
Um,
You spoke
and
it into existence. That's awesome.
yeah, so and then I did. I reached out to them. We had a little sit down on StreamYard just like this, just kind of backstage.
Sure.
Pitched them an idea. They said, "Man, that's awesome. Do you have like a business or a logo?" And I was like, "No, but I have this idea." And they were like, "What is it?" And I said, "Well, ever since I was a kid in middle
Rabbit.
school, yeah, ever since I was a kid in middle school, I've had this idea where I wanted to open a head shop." um, and I wanted my logo to be this crazy animated rabbit, hippie stoner, crazy, something crazy, but with this purple rabbit, and then just play off the word hairs for rabbits, and just call it Purple Hairs Head Shop, or Purple Hairs Head Store, whatever.
Sure.
But
Ashley, and I got it too. Give me 1 second because it is dope. Ashley shared that
after
with me, and I was like, cool.
after like decades of nothing ever happening with that, like as
There
the
we go.
years go by, then what was the big deal? Amazon happened, so then like the idea of a storefront kind of went out of the site, and so I didn't really know what to do. Like, and Ash was like, I can hook you up with a guy, just tell him your idea and he'll come up with a logo. So this was one of those logos. I have like two or three. There's a couple of different ones, like on my group and on my page, they're different. But that was these icons and stuff were all kind of brought up and created with the help of grassroots.
What did you say? Community.
Yeah. And then I don't have the funds myself to like make merchandise. So, Ash and Dreadful are really cool. They just ran me off a bunch of these logos right here as ninja transfers to transfer on some t-shirts and stuff for me.
Sure.
So I can get that rolling this time of season. But yeah, man, I just kind of pitched them this whole idea of like my brand and my logo, and they were just like, hell yeah, man, that's awesome. Like, let's make it happen. We want to help you make it happen. So we put together the idea for a show every Tuesday. We came up with Talk It Out Tuesday. And Ashley can tell you how that is when you first start doing a live, when you're looking at hundreds of viewers. You never know exactly how many people are going to be watching you on that live. It could be 10, it could be 100, it could be 500. And sometimes the numbers get big, and it was a really good time. But through that process, I just kind of broadcasted my growth at what we call the farm, or the homestead, up in Michigan over the last couple of years, the struggles, the accomplishments, and the harvest and stuff, and just through education. Really, that's what I'm pushing the most for, is cannabis education, like what to do with it from seed to finish and after that.
That's awesome, and I think that's something, especially when we talk about Wisconsin again, where there's no regulation, and you hear some stories, and hearing that there's just we've met so many cool people just from similar situations, which is just networking online. Like, I don't know about you guys, but like you're talking about them viewers and all that. Like, as much as I love it, it's gotten hard to keep up with. But man, when it comes down to being able to hop on and just kind of talk with the people, but there is truth in that number. Like, and that's what's weird about StreamYard, is sometimes they'll say 12, but then I look at Facebook and it's 40. So I always just assume there's a lot of people. Don't mess up, Bob. There's a lot of people that are going to remember that you messed up. So that is definitely a real thing as well. Barbie says, educate. Yes. Looks like we got Rhino Homestead was checking in with you guys.
Rhino.
Awesome sauce. Got some folks out there in the comment land. Wanted to get into a few different questions I had kind of concocted up here. Ashley, could you tell me a little bit about we touched on that already. Let's go. We are on top of shit. What's it like? What challenges have you faced as a mom of four, balancing homesteading and growing your own plants? Do they work with you or work for you, perhaps?
Yeah. Well, sometimes it can be a battle, but
yeah, I bet. Right?
But for the most part, yeah, they love to do it with me and garden with me. They like picking it and stealing it, honestly, to eat it. But that I will not complain about that. I was like, one thing they don't have to ask for is fruits and veggies.
Yeah, there you go.
But yeah, they especially green beans, which I have growing in my living room right now. Some peppers and some other herbs and lettuces. But yeah, they like to pick it and eat it. And, we like to incorporate it into our meals. Challenges, I would say, knowing exactly how much to grow to know if I have enough, or I'm going to have to go to the store again and get some stuff. So I think learning like a good rotation on how much to grow, and I'm dabbling into canning. So I would like to do more of that to be more like preserving and all of that. So a little bit at a time.
No, okay. No, that makes sense. Yeah, I'm I'm only a handful of days in watching my daughter myself. So I'm definitely a different and being that young. But my hope is that she can tend to a nice little plots of land one day to help her dad out.
And I bet it'll be sooner than you think.
Yeah, dude. She's playing the piano. She loves this little piano I got her. But cute. I can't. So it was so cute because she just looked at me like, "What do you want me to do with that?" But then I put her little hands on the piano, and I just put my finger on top of it. And then, so she kind of thinks she's doing it. And I just did that a few times, and I swear she
That's
thinks she's
cute.
Mozart now.
Yep.
It's pretty awesome. I love these kids. But good to know you said you watch her anytime. I'll send her your way.
Yeah, no problem. Just ship her on over.
Yeah, there you go. And actually, just talking real quick about, the peppers, everything you kind of grow. What's your favorite herb or plant to grow, and why?
Gosh, so I'm gonna say cilantro.
What?
Because I love Mexican food, and it just adds to the dish.
It does. But I'm one of those folks that tastes like soap for some reason.
Yep, that actually is a gene. There's
I wish it didn't, because all the good
you're
Mexican
missing
food
out.
has cilantro in it. And then here I am picking it out like a little.
It's a good metal detox for your body too.
Oh, really? Did not know.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'll see if I can't fix that. Dog says cilantro is a wild answer. I agree, Dog. But hey, we'll let Ashley be. Dog says, how's everyone's week? I gotta go back out and shovel. Yeah, we got a lot of snow over here in Wisconsin. I'm guessing it's coming Michigan's way.
Yeah, unfortunately.
That'll be fun to take care of. Two great people there, both great at what they educate about. That's awesome. Thank you for the comment, Rhino. Let's see here. Chris, can you share one or two success stories from people who've used your product that maybe well, you're in Ohio, so I don't know what it looked like before, but I feel like, especially in Wisconsin where there's no regulation, it's just interesting. Sometimes you'll find somebody who hadn't tried cannabis until they got to like a gas station, and it looks like weed, so we're going to grab that and try it, and then they think it works for them, and it probably does to some effect. But I've just learned, if you know a grower, it's just like driving a Cadillac compared to going to the Walmart and picking up a Saturn Ion or something. Have you had any cool stories that kind of way?
So yeah, man, actually, the way that Ohio did go, like I mentioned, we were medical first for a hot minute, a couple of years, before we went rec.
And real quick, were you growing? You weren't growing for medical yet, were you?
Legally, no.
Okay, no, yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
So again, we passed the rec. We went from mid to like just open rec and mid. We passed that in December 23. And then the rec actually went into effect here at the dispensaries in June, end of June, July, somewhere in there, 24.
Okay.
So no, again, in 22, in the year of 23, that summer, I was growing up in Michigan, at my plot up there, doing my thing up there. And I didn't have anything here in Ohio other than a couple on the indoor side going. But I've always kind of guerrilla grew outside, no matter what. That's, like I said, I've been doing this since I was like 15, 16, man. And, cornfields, down by the creek, anywhere I could find a spot, I was plugging away at some seeds or some clones or something out there.
Sure.
So I've been doing it a long time, but the way we processed, that there was a transformation of a lot of people when it went medical. People were getting their cards, they were going with the process, they were getting the doctors, the signups, paying the thing, getting their card, and going to the dispo. But that only worked if you qualified to get that card. So then there was a lot of people who just didn't have it as an option, period, because it was either you had a medical card, it can go to the dispo, or you didn't. If you didn't have a medical card, you couldn't go in the dispo.
And real quick, do you know how much a medical card was?
At first, the total process was like to get signed up and get the referral, see the doctor, get the card, and everything. I'm thinking it was between $150 and $200.
Okay, that's not terrible. I mean, I think we could all agree there shouldn't have to be any fee. But
so now
I've just heard some stories that's like $500 a year in some states.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So now that we've went rec, before I finished my story, now that we've went rec, they've dropped that. So there's that initial visit for the referral, but the card I think costs you $1. It was $1, but now it's a free thing. Like,
cool.
Or you pay a penny or something like that. I don't know, to get it renewed, but it's not required now in order to go to the dispensary. Now you can go in with your ID.
For a recreational, you're talking, correct?
Yeah, for the new.
Do they still have a medical program? Some outfits.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
But that you would still need the card, but it's only like $1.
Yep, and you get a little difference on like a tax break and stuff like that.
Sure.
And there's a different like side you go to for the med. But there's a transition there also for the rec legalization. There's people that are, those old folks that, could be your parents, could be your grandparents, could be your aunts or your uncles, that have been too scared to ever try it because it's illegal. Now they're like, "Psst, hey, you've been smoking a long time, right? Like, what
Yeah.
do you know about this?" And so now, right now, I'm kind of cool in the family. You know what I mean? So
Sure. Yeah,
and I'm
you're
more
getting the questions.
I'm more open about, and I tell them what I'm doing. Like,
That's
yeah,
awesome.
this is what I do now. I grow cannabis, and hopefully one day I'll have. I got some projects we're working on right now on the down low, but um, I'm going to revert back to your original question real quick.
You're good. You're good.
Any good stories? So in that process of medical to rec to current day to pre-med, again, I told you I did some jail time for quite a while. It was a couple years I did a long time ago, but um, around me in the area, there's always been a high problem of other drugs.
Sure.
I've lost some friends to it, and then I know a lot of folks who are still in it, and folks who have gotten out of it, and a lot of those folks who I still talk to this day that have gotten out of it are because they came to me one day and sat down and said they wanted to quit, and I said, "Well, let me tell you how you can.
Sure.
This thing right here is going to change your life,
Right.
and if it's speed you enjoy, allow me to introduce you to what they call sativa."
Sure.
If
Sure.
it's a depressant you enjoy, allow me to introduce you to something they call indica.
Sure.
If you just want to feel nice for the day, I'm going to give you something called a hybrid. But
Yeah.
you let me know what direction you want to go, and we're going to. So, and I did. I found that out, one, that for people who are addicted to uppers or speeds, I would sell them sativas and tell them smoke it as soon as you wake up in the morning.
Sure.
And then they're getting jobs, and I'm like, yes, smoke it before you go to work in the morning, bro.
Sure.
And with your coffee, smoke it,
Sure.
and then tell me how your day goes. And they would like make it through the whole day,
Sure.
and they would keep their job, and they
Right.
would get paychecks, and they would buy a car, and then they'll get a house, and then next thing you know, he's married and got a kid, and he's clean for 5 years, and that's
That is
what
awesome
I love
because
to see.
that's just real quick because I want to hear another story too. But this was really powerful. But
Sure.
like when I set out on this journey of just basically advocacy, activism, whatever you want to call it, right? It came from from a helping people standpoint. Working in retail stores and selling hemp products, which are interesting at times, right? There's no regulation, or there's few states that have figured out good regulation for hemp, and it feels weird to say there needs to be some regulation because you don't want there to be too much, but there's got to be some checks and balances in these products. So it's tough enough to go to Michigan to go to a higher love. You kind of find your jam, but now if you go to a different dispensary, those bud tenders are usually pretty busy, especially on the weekends because of Wisconsin folks that they don't, they're not always going to have time to give you all this detailed information, or like you'd feel bad asking that information if you're in the drive-thru and there's 40 people behind you. How long are you going to have to talk to that bud tender? But I started to see these people come in similar to ailments, mainly the older citizens, that kind of stuff, coming in, and they're kind of like, well, I don't know, I'm just seeing what this is about. You give them a sample, and I think it's key. You got to give them to take that slow approach, right? Because we know how it can go otherwise. And then people are like, "Oh, I'm messing with you." Take your time, folks. It's a process, and everybody's different. But once they find that sweet spot, it just got to be like, wow, I can help my community by trying to fight for what's right, especially in my eyes. Like now that I understand that it's just a plant, and the harvesting of it, like there is nothing crazy about cannabis other than what was pushed down our throats, 60, 70, 80 years ago. But so I started, and then I started here. So I was in active advocacy for like 2 months. And I remember the day pretty well that a gentleman reached out, and he was addicted to heroin, meth for 8 years. And when he explained to me that it probably only would have been about 6 months instead of 8 years of hell, if when he tried switching to cannabis, he wouldn't have been told that that was just as bad as heroin or meth. God, sorry. And that's where it was like, holy shit, there's people like that are losing quality time of their life because big pharma or whoever, like some of these AAs or whatever they're called, where they still say cannabis is a drug. So you're not drug free. Like Come on, they are not even close to the same thing. So the fact that you kind of found that spot too, and were able to do that on a one-on-one basis.
Oh yeah, that is 100% a true life story. The cat I'm talking about in 2018, he was sleeping on my couch, hanging out in my garage, tearing apart bicycles in my backyard and rebuilding them for fun. That deep into
Gotcha.
being a meth head,
Sure.
or a meth addict. And he was bad, man. He was really bad off. Was just like, man, I'm homeless. It don't matter. It's fun. Like, hey, whatever. Um, and he was in and out of jail, and then he had a trip to the hospital one time that almost killed him, and then after that he kind of slowed down a bit, and then would kind of come over and want to get, just want to hang out and smoke some cannabis, some flower, whatever with me. And then he was like, man, and then eventually, like I said, I just told him, like, hey man, in reality you need just to smoke some sativa, bro, in the morning,
Right.
in the daytime, and then just keep smoking that, because you'll feel that effect, that energetic, like what you're chasing. You're
Yeah.
going to get the same thing. Wake up, drink you some coffee, and smoke you a big joint of this sativa.
Right.
And you're going to be in the same place you were.
Right.
Not
But
quite,
healthy,
but
kind of, or healthier. What the wording is on that?
yeah, you're going to get that whiz, that buzz, and go through the day just fine. And that's no doubt, like no lie. He got a job. He's got 2 cars. He just got married. He just had a baby. They got a nice house. It's
Sure.
crazy. Like, to
That's
see him
awesome, man. That's
transform.
got to just make your heart happy. Like I can just tell from the little bit I've gotten to know you here. I know we're the 3 of us. I think we're in this for the same reason, which is just that. Not you. Like, I don't even need an acknowledgement from people. It's just knowing that I'm trying to help possibly change somebody's life, because especially in today's world, everything is so divided. I mean, every single topic, right? And it's forced on us, basically. Like, we watch our leaders, basically, if you don't agree with me, you're an idiot, you're a moron. Why would and it's just, I feel like its community has become tougher and tougher to grow. No pun intended. But when you look at just cannabis in general, like, I don't know, it just cannabis has really started to become more and more the same effect of community for me, because I think that's how, just a great way to kind of, and Wisconsin, they just updated, I think it was 34 of the 50 drunkest counties in the United States are here in Wisconsin. And of course, drinking's okay, right? But there's still a lot of folks that when you talk about smoking cannabis, oh my gosh, like, and I get people, well, I'm just sharing with you guys, and every once in a while we got a new listener who will be saying some kind of thing. I'm not saying that anybody should have to smell the smell of pot. I cannot stand the smell of cigarettes. Like, I want to barf. It's terrible. Every time I smell a cigarette, I want to throw up legitimately. I'm not trying to be any kind of way. I only smoked once. It was one night. I think I smoked like a pack and a half, and I woke up in the shower with it on running, and all I could taste was cigarettes for a week. So I literally cannot stand the smell of cigarettes. So I can't believe how many people are that upset by the smell of cannabis, which is loud, but nobody's saying you should have to go to, Denny's or Perkins and smell cannabis. Like,
Right.
I just always like to get that out of the way, because somebody likes to jump on my case in that comment section. Usually it's Robert. I got to watch him. No, Robert's awesome. He's a little grower himself, but that's awesome. And Smashley, have you had any luck with you do some like herbal tinctures and smokable blends? Is that correct?
Yeah. I make some other herbal things. My love of plants kind of stems from cannabis, yes, but there's more plants out there that do a lot more healing along with it. So yeah, I do like a mixture of like I guess I'll talk about the popular one. It's what I like to call Breathe Easy blend that I make. It has like mullein and peppermint, gotu kola, and skullcap.
Okay. Sorry about that, guys. Down. Yeah, right. Just a few adjustments over here.
Yeah.
Mullein, is that the stuff that is supposed to help with cold or something?
Yeah, it helps open up your lungs, and it acts as an expectorant, so it helps clear out the phlegm and all of that. Also,
so that's what this.
Yeah. So it's more healing, kind of like all the special terpenes in cannabis. Those are also in other plants.
Yeah.
So it's just more added healing.
What's the address? Do you have like a website?
I don't, but I do have the Smashley's Garden group. I do need a website. That should be on my list.
Yeah, Santa, hook her up.
Yeah.
Don't look at the guy in a Santa hat. I'm terrible with technology, by the way.
No, that's funny.
No, that's awesome. And I think that's what's so especially the extreme anti-cannabis folks, right? They always like to call us stoners and like just not give you the time of day. And like, there's just so many unique things that if especially the politicians here in Wisconsin that are, anti-legalization, if they just took the time to talk to folks, like you guys are in states that have now started to get with the program. And like Ashley, if you were truly just looking to chase a cannabis high, why would you be gardening all this other stuff? Like, there's
Right.
just so many cool people in this. And what has it been like as far as before things were legal in your state, Ashley? And then once they were legal, like, have you noticed any change as far as how community accepts cannabis? Does it still
I
feel
feel like it's a lot more accepted, at least in my realm, because I was one of the people that believed it was wrong, believed it was bad for you,
sure?
until I did it myself and learned a little bit more about it thanks to this cannabis community, and
Sure.
just other friends teaching me about it. But I feel like it's definitely a lot more popular, a lot more accepted. But I feel like it was obviously more hidden before. But again, this is just me, a little
Sure.
noob, trying to speak on this.
Sure. No, you're good. Well, and again, that's what us here in Wisconsin. We're behind you, Ashley. You're beating all of us as far as legitimate, full blown legalization efforts and finding your kind of way. And I think I would be interested in what your guys' take is. One of the things I'm trying to incorporate with any kind of framework that we get to help set up for this state. Do you guys, either state, have any kind of like a craft grow? Like, for some reason, well, probably because we're in Wisconsin, there's a lot of farms, right? Dairy land. But farmers markets are big around here, right? And in my mind, I've always envisioned the farmers markets, but it's just like Smashley's Garden is there with the best Blue Dream because she's been
Yeah.
working on the Blue Dream strain for 10 years, right? And you got Chris over here, and he's got the best Gorilla Glue because, like, everyone knows if you want the Gorilla Glue, he's the guy, and that's kind of what he hones it. And now, granted,
Yeah.
obviously, people could grow more or whatever, but you know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
right? And what's the community like as far as has it really gone to most people are getting their stuff from a dispensary? Is there still like people that are growing at home and kind of bartering, or what is that generally? Did you feel a shift there as well? I mean, obviously you didn't have dispensaries before that, but
Right.
did
Yeah.
you feel a shift just kind of in the other side of things?
So I feel like that kind of goes along with the education of it, and I guess who you have as hookups.
Sure,
Because
that's
if
fair.
you know, if you know a good source, you'd rather support a friend. I would,
Right.
So I'd rather not support a dispo. But you also don't realize, because I was late to learning. Same with food, you want to get the good stuff. You want to stay away from the chemicals and the pesticides and all of that. You
Sure.
don't know if you are staying away from that if you're getting it from a dispo. So if you
Right.
have a trusted friend, that's always going to be better for your lung health as well as everything else.
Sure. No, that's a good point. I was actually talking to a guy from Michigan, and I'm sure this is an extreme case, and I'm sure it's nobody we know. And I didn't even ask the name because I don't want to know. But I learned about remediation, which is, correct me if I'm wrong, but essentially, so flour, first of all, flour, I don't know about Ohio, but Michigan, flour has no expiration date, which I get it would be hard to figure out what the expiration date is because I think it would all come down to storage, if
Right.
that it sounds messy, right? But
Yeah.
the fact that there's no expiration date, and then there's companies that their stuff ends up getting moldy, mildewy, whatever. That apparently there's this machine, and I'm going to sound like Joe Rogan, one of his crazy stories where he goes down a rabbit hole. But I was being explained how this thing works, and it's the same machine that they like zap blood that they do transfusions with to make sure there's nothing like alive in the blood other than the blood or something.
Oh.
So what they do is they take this flour, and people think they like magically clean it and now it's safe for consumption. But I learned that essentially what it does is like zap it and it just stops the mold or mildew from being able to like breathe essentially.
Yeah.
And so when it's tested, it's testing for live mold and mildew and it passes that test. Like, there's just some crazy shit out there, folks.
Yeah.
So if you got a chance to support local craft grows, I mean, obviously, shout out to a lot of the dispensaries. I'm sure they're doing it right. But you bring up a couple good points there. Like, Chris, do you have folks that are able to? So do you distribute your products on the homestead, or how does that kind of work? Do you go through dispensaries to get your product as a consumer over there, or what are things like for your project, man?
Now I live the motto "Grow your own."
Yeah.
And that's, I mean, that's pretty much it, man.
Fair enough. I
I
love
do
it.
enough in the season to where I have a pretty good supply to last me and my friends quite quite a while.
Sure. No, that's what's up,
um,
man.
so
Apple cider tincture. That sounds good.
Yeah,
No,
I
go
make
ahead, Chris.
a tincture, a
Okay.
breathing tincture. He's probably talking about that.
Okay. Nope, I gotcha. Oh, someone said something too about smokable blends. What are those?
Yeah, that's what I was just talking about. Like here, it's like a mixture of different plants that
Yeah.
you can mix with your cannabis, or you can smoke it by itself, or you can have it as a tea. Just
Oh,
added
that's
healing.
pretty cool. Yeah. Well, that you bring up a good point, right? Like, how many plants did whoever the dude was back in the day who's like, hey, let's try smoking some of this?
Yeah,
I wonder how many plants that dude went through. Like,
I don't know.
was he trying dandelions
He
or
must have.
he was a busy man? There's a lot of plants out there, folks. I wonder what the first strain was, or like if he named it. Wow, we gotta dig into this. I don't know
Right.
where the hell we
Yeah,
start
that's a
digging,
good
but
question.
Rhino says I am currently wearing that exact hat, Bobby. Hey, let's go. We are deep. We're rolling deep in Santa land. No, right on. When it comes to so we just formed the Wisconsin Cannabis Safety Alliance. So there has been a few efforts over the years to try to get kind of groups, coalitions, however you want to describe it, together, right? And really, all I did over the last year, when I was just focusing on advocacy, shout out to this podcast. That was my bread assister. I definitely was not the winner of the house, but shout out to a lot of the awesome folks who have helped move this movement of Let's Legalize Wisconsin along, and be able to help me in being able to go to all these different events and just network, like keep as many people on standby as we can to activate. And what's really neat to see is like we have so many different parts of this alliance. So we've got like a financing committee alliance. We're trying to get a bank, a credit union, and something else, somebody from that. We got a lawyer division. We've got a subcommittee for advocacy. We got a subcommittee for you name it, for agriculture. One of the things that I would like to get your guys' take on is I'm trying to figure out how we could figure out a way, and if you guys know of any kind of ways, like, is there a good way to keep the legacy market kind of in tune? I feel like that's something that a lot of states miss in their legalization efforts, is kind of checking into the folks who have been doing it for a while, before this, hemp and all that kind of stuff. And just like when you go to a dispensary as opposed to a doctor today, like a bud tender is way more educated on the effects of a plant than, say, a doctor. A doctor might say, well, cannabis can help with, right? But they're not going to know which plant you should get when you go to that dispensary. So I feel like it's a similar situation when we talk about legalization. And I'm just like a take from some folks in different states. Do you have any ideas on how something like that could be structured? I have a few different ideas, but I am trying to kind of just bounce some ideas around with some folks from other states, other walks of life, that kind of stuff. Because I know if I talk to politicians or, that kind of thing, they're going to be like, it doesn't matter. That's illegal. Yeah, well, it shouldn't be illegal. That's your fault. Like, you know what I mean? That's my take anyway.
I can say this first and foremost off of what you just mentioned. I don't agree with one thing you said. I feel like, well, just me personally, I know more than most of the bud tenders I encounter at a dispensary. Why?
Sure.
Because I educated myself on it.
Sure.
If you want to know what works for you at a dispensary, go try your options. You can ask the bud tender for suggestions, but they're really not trained in anything. At
Sure.
least here, when you get a job, they give you a minor, like, entry level quiz to find out what you
That's
know, but I don't think it holds much
No,
bearing
that's
on
a
your
good point.
employment.
Yeah.
And especially
So
when we're talking about cannabis, right? Because it's even light beer, right? I feel like if all three of us have one light beer, we're going to be like, our percentage of effect is going to be within like 10% or
Right.
something, right? But with cannabis, especially, I wish there was almost a way that, I mean, again, not looking to overregulate. I'm not trying to sound that kind of way, but it would be kind of awesome if to try cannabis, you just got a starter kit, which is like the three different strains,
There you go.
a journal, and you had to write down what you felt to go to the next
Yeah.
level. Like, you got to take that time. And in today's world, it's busy, it's hectic, it's crazy. There's a reason we like reading books, right? Because if I want to slow down, and I can slow down a little bit. If I want to read faster, I can read faster. And there's no pop-ups. Thank God there's no pop-ups. Like,
right.
it's funny, but we're like reverse engineering what we've come to, put in our pocket and our phone and stuff. But you bring up a great point. It It is, yeah. You hope that the bud tender is going to be educating that, but ideally, you have folks that understand, and I think that's the biggest thing is most folks don't understand. They still think it's like beer, right? Like there's a beer option and a vodka, but it's like there's so many more. But you bring up a great point there
because I mean, I'm not going to go down the rabbit hole of terpenes and indica and like
oh God, right?
because of a bud tender is at the dispensaries I've still visit. They're still leaning on that indica hybrid sativa system. Sure. And it
real quick, I got an idea, and this is what I've been using the last few months. Because I don't feel comfortable. It bothers me, and I think we're similar in that. But what I do now is I got daytime use and nighttime use. That's my easiest way to tell folks. So that's what I run with. But I'm interested to see what you got.
Yep, and I tell people.
Well, you brought up a good point when you were talking about
don't smoke this at night. Don't smoke this in the morning. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because you're not going to go to sleep, or you're going to want to go to sleep.
Right.
So, but yeah, and I a bunch of us out there still try to preach that it's it's not so much that indica sativa hybrid, that it's the terpenes in the flower that you're smoking. And that's why I said before, like, switch it up a bit, just go in and try some, ask their opinions, but grab those hybrids, because in those hybrids you're going to probably find something easier that you like.
Well, and Chris, do you do any kind of like pheno hunting and crossbreeding and stuff?
So we're going to be very soon. I have, but we're going to be working on that in this project that we're working on I'm on with another guy up in Toledo, for a friend of ours. So he's in the initial stages of breeding right now. And then I think in February, the end of February, I'll get the beans that I'll be popping to start my.
And I don't think anyone's any kind of way, whether you do or not. In my opinion, I did a home grow. My first one was stressful to say the least. I just threw some seeds that were in this eighth I bought. I threw some seeds into some soil in little solo cups, and they ended up sprouting, like 10 of them. And I didn't think they were going to, but I wanted to learn the plant, right? I was selling it at the time. So I'm trying to learn the plant. They sprouted up, and I don't want them to die. Like, they're my kids now. And then, so I talked to our grower and asked him what to do. Next thing you know, he's like, beans, they need to be in a tent or in some kind of a closet. And I'm like, well, I can't afford a tent. My wife's going to kill me. So I went with the other option on how my wife might kill me, which is down in our basement here. We have what we call the secret room. And it's a pantry that is full of non-perishable goods and metal shelving. And I just made an executive decision, man. Like, she's not home. I don't know where she is. I can't ask her. My phone, I don't know where it is. So I just moved all the stuff out. I put them in there. It was a stressful grow. But then I found out like they weren't going to actually produce what I was looking for, right? It was from a hemp flower, whatever. So then I ordered seeds. And let me tell you, folks, take your time and educate yourself on seeds as well, because auto flowers, you need to tell your grower your hydroponic store, you need to let them know you've got autoflower seeds, because dude was trying everything in the book. I'm taking pictures. He's trying to help me. And he's like, God, something just ain't adding up. We went from organic to non-organic and then he finally was like, hey, okay, just put it in a bag, put it in the trunk of your car and bring it in here. And then when I brought it in there, he's looking it over and he's like, do you know if this is autoflower? I'm like, yeah, no, that's what I thought auto was good. I don't know. So there's just so much to growing that if you grow and you don't do all that extra stuff, definitely don't discredit yourself. But I think it's neat you're looking into it. But I propose a challenge. I am looking for the Bobby Bean strain. And it is my two favorite strains. And I think it could be the purest hybrid ever made. And it would be somehow like the oldest school you could find of Jack Herrera, and then also Northern Lights. And if you could do some kind of, I forget what they call that, cross pollinating. And if you can figure that out for me, Chris, I will hook you up. We could call it the Christopher Fisher strain. Like, I just want to be able to say I helped make that happen, because I think it'd be dope as hell.
We can
keep your eyes out on
make
that.
It happen.
All right, cool.
Oh yeah.
Ashley, have you done any crossbreeding yet?
I have not gotten that far.
You haven't mixed a red pepper and a green pepper and had a kid yet? Come on.
No, actually.
Can you do that? I guess.
Yeah, I've heard of people making like their own breeds of peppers, and tomatoes too.
No kidding.
Pretty cool, yeah. I've not entered into that world though.
Okay. That just sounds hectic.
It sounds complicated. I'm like, I'll just grow a normal tomato.
actually, a question for you. What role does nutrition play in the healing process alongside plant-based medicine?
So I guess I could bring up terpenes a little bit with this because just like I like to compare them because cannabis has kind of like taught me, I don't know, there's more to this one plant than there are to like all of my plants kind of put together. Because there's so many different strains and again, so many different terpenes that add to the healing processes. But those terpenes are also in a lot of nutritional products like citrus and other plants that are like herbal things like rosemary and basil and thyme and all those fresh herbs that you cook with all contain those healing terpenes. So I feel like the closer our bodies are linked to plants and the more plants we consume, the more healing that can happen because they all have those properties, the anti-inflammatory properties, antiseptic properties, all those magical things that help the body flow with its natural potential.
Oh, I got you. I don't know if anybody saw that. Your boy had to go grab a water real quick, and I forgot that I lowered my seat, and I did not realize how low it was. That was almost really bad. I am so sorry. I don't know what happened. Cottonmouth something, and we almost lost the beans. But no, I think you bring up a great point, and I'm sure as you guys have learned and hopefully been able to educate some folks, like I personally feel like smoking is the best way to at least get started in cannabis to kind of find out how it works for your body. Because when it comes to edibles, when we're talking about like different nutrients or even the different, how much fatty foods you had, like there's so much that can affect how this plant interacts with our body. So if you're able to talk to somebody like yourself who has a little more understanding and just overall knowledge, like again, we're still learning so much about this plant that's been around forever, literally. It's a pretty crazy concept when you really think about the diversification of this plant and the healing potentials and stuff and how it interacts with different stuff. Rhino said, just like any medication, we all have different body chemistry, and what works for you may not work for me. Doing a terpene profile for yourself would be a good start. Oh, I like that. Is that terpene profile? Is that like a sheet thing, or is that? I know there's like Strain Genie where you can. Are we talking? Like
I've just Googled images before of like what types of terpenes out there, and then they'll have like the effects of them.
Yeah, I mean, sites like Leafly will even tell you if you look up
I go there
particular
too.
strain, it'll tell you the dominant, the what people, describe as the most dominant terpenes after they smoke it. But
sure, I like that, Roy. Cross cannabis and corn, call it canna corn. Eat the kernels, smoke the leaves. I like it. I like it. Shout out to Roy. He's been in the advocacy thing for a long time. Pretty awesome dude, for sure. Got a chance to kind of have a little more one-on-one chat with him here the last couple weeks. So shout out to Roy for swinging out. I don't know for sure where it fits, guys, but I just feel like there's something really cool about talking to kind of different states in the Midwest about cannabis. I just had received a personal message, and they're basically thinking what I was, which is there might be something here. I know you guys are busy, but it's beautiful we're on Facebook because this number at the bare minimum would be double as far as viewership. And I'm hoping we're only a couple weeks away. I just can't risk anything on Facebook right now. But definitely in the future, if you guys are interested, hit me up. I'm always down for adding episodes or just once a week right now because things are a little hectic with the Safety Alliance. But for a while there, we were doing 3 a week. And I just think there's so much that can be discussed. And it's really neat to just be able to I don't really bring a legal perspective per se, but I can tell you as far as it's just so interesting what's happening in Wisconsin. Because again, Smashy, do they sell THC drinks in gas stations in Michigan?
No.
Right? And here we are, illegal. But if it's got hemp on it, even though if you test the THC in the drink, you can't tell if it came from hemp or non-hemp. Like, it's just some of the most bizarre stuff you've ever seen in your life is happening over here in Wisconsin. The cool thing is a lot of these folks are coming to be a part of the alliance, so we can just get some self-regulation, try and get that in place, present it. Like, hey, we stepped up while you guys are just. Did you guys hear about this pizza incident, Pizzagate? Oh, y'all want to hear some crazy shit over in Wisconsin?
Yes, please.
This is what sparked the Safety Alliance. I just enjoy talking to the cannabis consumers of Wisconsin and trying to Make sure everybody's voice is a part of, whatever this looks like. I'm not looking to do anything else except for network with the people, spend time with the people, educate. That's my jam. And I've always tried to reach out to a bunch of news places, right? Like, hey, could you share this story for us? Or, hey, did you know? And it's very little traction. I send out like 50 emails, one or two might respond. All of a sudden, probably about a month and a half ago or so, all of a sudden I start getting phone calls and I'm like, well, this is bizarre. A lot of spam. Wonder what's going on. Well, next thing you know, I'm listening to some of the voicemails in this news stations. I'm like, what the hell is going on? And a couple of them, something about pizza. And I'm like, THC pizza. What are you talking about? Well, it wasn't until I answered finally. It was this number from out of state, but it didn't say spam. So I answered it. And it was somebody in now I don't even remember, New Mexico or something. And they're like, hey, what's going on with this pizza thing? And I'm like, what are you talking about? And then they explain it to me. And I was like, I don't know. That's not my business. Madison's in Wisconsin, but I don't know. And she's like, well, aren't you the voice of cannabis in Wisconsin? I'm like, not. I'm just a Facebook. Like, no, I'm not the guy. But she's like, well, doesn't the cannabis community have anything to say about this? And that's when I realized, like, wait a second. You're trying to blame the cannabis community. Like, I felt like the media felt like they had a story to put cannabis in a bad light. So I do some digging to figure out what this Pizzagate thing is. So I don't know how this is possible. Ashley or Chris, in your states where it's even legal, do you think there's many places that have shared kitchens with infused kitchens and pizza parlors using a shared kitchen situation of any kind?
No.
Probably not, right? And now if you did, would that infused kitchen probably have like a secret passcode on it? Okay, right? Just follow me. And now even if you got into that kitchen, wouldn't the infused oil be like under lock and key?
Yeah.
Right? The infused cooking oil.
Mm-hmm.
Long story short, somebody went into the infused kitchen, saw a bottle that looked like cooking oil, grabbed it because they ran out of oil over there. They didn't ask, but you're just grabbing cooking oil. I mean, that's like borrowing a bucket of water from my neighbor. I think he'll be okay. I'll pay him back the next day. Not a big deal. Well, long story short, it wasn't until 27 people ended up going to the hospital, and the doctors are going to all these folks like, your vitals are fine. Yeah, I don't. So they finally started asking questions like, well, what'd you have for dinner? And then they started realizing, wait, where'd he have dinner? Pizza. Okay. So what happened was somebody grabbed the wrong bottle of cooking oil that was infused, put it in the pizzas, didn't know it was infused, and the report came out, and 87 people filled out that they ended up having said pizza, right? This is a little strange. It seems a little bizarre, but the ages of consumption by those 87 range from age 1 to 92. That sounds like that Christmas song or something, like from ages. Yeah. Anyways, like just a very bizarre situation. And the state comes in, the county comes in, right? The health and safety code, all sheriff, everybody's like, how the hell did this happen? Now, if that happened in one of your states, does something happen to somebody?
Yeah,
is somebody's ass getting fired, going to jail, getting prosecuted in the street? Like, they come through, they do a sweep, they can take all the reports. It's not CBD oil, which we have very little kind of law written. It's actually THC that's federally legal. Yeah, we can't write a fine on that. Like, what?
Wow.
So that's where it just got to, I think a lot of other folks started to see like, we need to do something. Like we need to protect each other. We don't need to say that you can't have infused oil a shared kitchen. It sounds like it's just a building and they're kind of their own little, like, so it's not like when I think of a shared kitchen, I could also just see like one big area and you're all in the same kitchen, that you each have your own kitchen. So it's not to say that can't be a thing, but we got to hold each other a little more accountable. We got to try a little harder when it comes to regulation. Do you guys have any stories from your states that have been some stuff that make you scratch your head as far as cannabis goes, and like changing the laws, that kind of stuff?
Gosh, I don't know if I can think of anything like that crazy.
I got one more that involves Missouri. If you don't have one, Chris.
I mean, nothing as wild as that. I mean, I know around here we've seen on the news where the kids have come across the bags of look-alike like Doritos or
Yeah, I don't know how those are still out there.
like Skittles or gummy worms or some kind of gummies or something, but nothing like that where somebody just happened to grab some oil. That sounds wild to me. Like
Yeah.
Right.
wondering
So
about
check.
like the kitchen setup in this place, like
Right.
how that looks.
No, for sure. And Rhino's in Missouri. So Rhino, maybe you'll appreciate this bizarreness. So this was right before I got into advocacy. I was still just in the hemp industry, kind of doing my thing. Had some pretty good amount of faith in what I was doing and how that looked. Because when COVID hit, I got back into gaming just a little bit, right? So I'm just gaming one day, and my gamer tag, I can't remember what it was, it's something about weed or whatever. So I get talking to this guy, and he's from Missouri, and he was asking about what Wisconsin is like, and I'm telling him it's hemp. You can kind of do whatever you want. And I'm just like, yeah, and one day we'll be legal. It'll be a lot better then. And he's kind of like, I don't know about that. And I'm like, well, what do you mean? So this dude is like a financial advisor on steroids. Okay. So like, if you're a company and you want to invest money, you want to grow, you want to, if you're looking at a $20 million thing you want to start, you bring him in and he helps you like budget, figure out how to get the income, move this money, do all that kind of stuff. Right. And, so he's telling me this story. He's like, so yeah, 2 weeks ago, Missouri changed a law, and it was essentially how much like backstock or how much flour you can have in a warehouse. Okay. And so he says, I heard about it. I didn't think it would affect me much. And he gets a phone call from like his biggest cannabis client. And the cannabis client, it's just like the secretary, right? Because it's a big outfit. So this contact gets in touch with them and say, hey, we pay you to be our money guy. You need to get your ass here tomorrow and we need to talk. So he's like, holy fuck, this could be a big project. This could be, they're getting rid of me. Didn't know what to expect. He gets into that room, and long story short, he's got like the people that run this thing, right? Like the people that run the show, and they're wondering what they can do with the now 50,000 pounds that they're supposed to dispose of, because they have more than they're supposed to. And they're like, so do we have to get rid of this? Can we sell it on the street? And he's like, this is not the kind of money stuff I deal with. I don't know what to tell you. This sounds like a lawyer thing. Like, isn't that crazy though? That like,
wow.
How do people not think of that ahead of time? Like, as far as like when you make changes, I feel like cannabis got so messed up because of our government that they're trying to be so, they just keep screwing it up more and more. Every state's got a problem with their legals, right? And why don't they get people like Chris involved is my question. Why don't you get people like the legacy folks who can tell you more about the plant? And again, it's not to say it's Chris's way or the highway, but how is it falling into the hands of politicians to figure out how to set up the language for grows, for the language for how much you can have in a storage facility? Like, there's just so much that makes no sense. And it's not like they just say, okay, cannabis is legal, have fun. No, they try to put all these barriers or all these restrictions, right? But just like you were saying, when you've got, you can do this, but you can't do this. Are you even legal? Like, it's just frustrating. And I hope that, if anything, in Wisconsin, that we're just getting the voice of enough people together. We're up to 50,000 now across our platforms. And it's just so that day, when that day comes, because they're going to try to slam something through real quick. I know it, right? Wisconsin last year, Republicans have been against cannabis, anything about cannabis. Last year, Republicans came out with a pill-only bill that would be 4 state-run dispensaries. Right? Like, who says, A, that could even work? B, why do you think that would work? And C, you should be smoking something. You need some of that daytime. Chill you out. You're way overthinking this, bro. I was like getting heated because I'm like, you don't understand, folks. I brought them the product, this THCA flower, this hemp that does. I'm like, this stuff. There is so many places just in 1 mile of this Capitol building that I can go buy this, because they're finally like, okay, this is the issue. We can do medical, but it can't lead to recreational use. And I'm like, there is so much recreational use going on. It's unbelievable. Like, the only way to help it would be to legalize it because you can help educate it. You're not stopping anybody.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what percentage of the UP sales are for out of state folks? And as far as dispensary products, 80%. That's a lot of people. I counted 252 cars through one dispensary in 4 hours.
Wow.
I got tired of counting cars. They had to shut during deer season. They had to shut they had to put out an ordinance that the dispensaries had to shut down because cars couldn't get through the town because they had their Black Friday sales and they were backed up onto the main road. There's only one road across the bridge into town, and it was backed up. Like, these people are crazy, folks. I hope that you guys have some kind of fair representation, or at least, it's nice. In my opinion, that's what I look forward to about like a home grow. It's just keeping it locally sourced. Just like tomatoes, it should be no different than tomatoes. So, Rhino says one reason I moved to Missouri was Illinois growing laws. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Excuse me. We got Chantel in the house. Hey, Chantel, thanks for stopping by. Got a few more questions for you guys. Oh my God, I try to only keep people an hour, and we're just over an hour. I'm so sorry. Do you have like 10 more minutes?
Yeah,
cool.
I'm down.
And can we do this again?
We're good.
Yes, of course.
Right, cool. This is way cool. No, right on. And Ashley, get a website up so we can plug your product.
Yes, I will.
Do you guys feel like legally? Well, we kind of talked about that. We might be caught up here. How is availability in Michigan? Okay, so as far as Chris, I'm going to assume on this one, with Ohio getting legal, did that affect your business or personal growing practices? Did you feel any kind of difference, or are you just kind of your own little? You're kind of like a craft.
Yeah, man. I mean, I don't. So you see, there's big differences between like where I'm at here and in Michigan, where my other property is. But like up there, you can do totally different numbers on plants. You can do micro grows, and then there's levels where you have to get licenses to sell to the dispensaries and stuff. Down here, we don't really have all that.
Gotcha.
In Ohio, you got to have big bucks to be able to apply for the big commercial grows, and then it's like you got to really be big scale.
Yeah.
And I don't have that money, and I don't really ever want to be that big scale like a commercial
Let's go.
level grower. I would rather keep it on a more personal level. I think the early days of like California's legalization, where the folks could just home grow, and even just if you were that good, the dispensaries would buy your flower, and then they would test it, and if it passed the test and it was good flower, they would pay you for it. And that's in my opinion a way to make a living. And Ohio is already in the process of you were talking about the laws, not the politicians, and the laws changing and people backpedaling. And, that's a perfect example of Ohio right now. We passed the rec law in December. We voted as people on one thing, and then months later, they rewrote it and decided to pass what they wanted instead.
Gotcha.
And then now here we are almost a year into it, and they're already backpedaling and want to change our plant count. They want to drop it. They say the only reason somebody would want to grow 12 plants per household is if you had the intentions to sell it. And I say, instantly to that question, how does Michigan have 24? What do you say to that? What are they, cartel? Like,
right.
It's all for me.
Yeah, right. No wonder Ashley's got a big smile on her face over there.
Right.
So I'm like, call the plug after this. I got on another podcast. You wouldn't believe it. They thought we were written. Well, and that's where, so 18 was the number that I have in mind, but knowing how politicians work, I bumped that up to 24. Because, to me, having grown myself and realized, I wish I would have had so I had 4, but I would like to have 6 going, 6 in seedling for when that one's coming to be harvested, and then 6 for when something goes wrong, because it's going to fucking happen, folks. Like, it's crazy. Real quick, I do want to show you guys something interesting. How do I share this again? Present. See if you guys got any ideas here or any thoughts. So this right here, okay. Oh, can I make a line? I can't. But if you look, you can see like this is the property up in northern Wisconsin, okay, way up there. So if you look where the mouse is, you can kind of see where there were some 40s, and then down here you got a 44. You can just tell that this is land, okay. This is land that my great grandparents settled on when they came over from Norway. Like my grandma was just telling me the story about how these pines, they were actually paid by the government. The government sent them seeds. And then but then they tried growing and somebody came out to check and they weren't deep enough, or I don't know, some bizarre thing, right? But anyways, long story short, my dad owns this 40 acres here. Okay. This is hardwoods in the middle. You notice anything interesting there though? Let me zoom in a little bit. There is a random, well, to me it's random. It looks like a clean cut, right? That is a field in the middle of the woods.
Yeah.
Huh.
And
crop
so
circle. It's a crop rectangle.
Something. But my mind, where I went with this, guys, right? I was feeling it one night, man. I don't know what I was smoking, but it was some good stuff. Yeah, it was some good herbs. My thought process was when my great grandparents settled over here, they brought some cannabis with them and said, these guys ain't going to trust us if we're growing it out on the front yard because that's the house way down here. And then there's the main road way down here. So then I'm thinking my great grandpa was just a badass. And he said, I ain't doing one of this moonshine. Dude, Moonshine Alley is like 2 miles from here. So I'm pretty sure he probably, had some stuff going on back in the day. But I bet you he was just a smart man. And he said, you know what? I'm going to bring the flower to the people. And I can't even let my great grandmother know about it. So he just said, hey, I'm going to go cut some wood. And he was gone a while. But my goal, guys, the only thing I want to get from advocacy is to get cannabis legalized to where people aren't in jail. We can grow it at home. My daughter in 20 years, when she goes to learn about cannabis, I mean, obviously she could ask me. But like if she wanted to, just if I don't have to know if she wants to be interested, but I want her to feel comfortable going somewhere, being super educated on the product, knowing it's clean, and not to be judged if she walks out of there with a joint and smokes it later, right? But I would like to add in there that I love the strain Northern Lights. That was my jam back in college when I ended up smoking so much I didn't go to class at all and just got kicked out. It was a whole thing. But Northern Lights was my happy jam. Like it made me that happy. I didn't even care, bro. I learned.
That's a fan favorite in our household also.
Okay, right on. But I learned, just like anything else, there's people who drink too much. But I had never been so calm in my life. I have ADHD. Adderall would kick in. I'd do great on tests and stuff, but man, I'm just stressed out. I can't shut my brain off. So it was just like this overwhelming, wow, this is so relaxing and chill. Like that feeling was so addicting at that point in my life. Here I am 18 years old and finally just, right? I got my first flat screen playing video games. I didn't care about school. Are you kidding me? But what I would really like to come full circle on with cannabis is that's how my journey started with it. And knowing that there's a lot of other folks that, could have had a similar thing. I wouldn't call it an addiction. I would just call it, at that point in my life, I wasn't ready for cannabis. But to end up one day taking that field that its heritage is at least somehow been in the family for that long and just having this small craft grow of Northern Lights. So when we meet up at Smashley's Garden or when we go down to Ohio, I'm just bringing my little jar for them. And that's like our little barter. Like, hey, thanks for letting me crash here. Here you go. You want to get rid of your car? I'll bring a trailer full, like that kind of stuff. Like, let's get some bartering in on this. So Northern Lights, some good old White Widow. Hey, there you go, Bart. Have you been to Colorado? No, I have not. Elevation is intense. I don't know if I could do that. Why? The high is way better, and so is the flower. Okay. Rhino just did some White Widow. I had White Runs, but not White Widow.
That's what I have is White Widow.
Okay, right on. Well, very cool. Well, I don't want to keep you guys too much longer. I think we have to have a 2.0 version once Facebook's up and running. Shout out to all the folks who hopped over here on YouTube. Shout out to Chris and Ashley for joining. You guys are cool. Glad that that's the awesome thing about the cannabis community is when I see someone else out there kind of being loud in a great way, but not afraid to talk about cannabis, educating about cannabis, And that was you, Ashley. And then when you tell me you've got someone in Chris, I'm just right away like, well, I think she knows what she's doing with cannabis. And, we just grow this community. So I don't know how I could help you guys right now because you got a lot more cannabis freedom, even though it could be a lot better, right? I think we could all agree that any state that's legal could still be doing it better. But if there's ever anything I can do, help get a message out there for you guys, or if you guys need, signatures, can't get you signatures from Wisconsin. But if I can help you with something, let me know. Definitely will keep in touch with you guys. Let's get you guys back on after the first of the year. And thank you for stopping out on the podcast with us.
Oh, yeah. Thank you so much. This is fun.
Absolutely. All right. Well, folks who are out here watching, Chris and Ashley, if you want to hang tight for just a minute, we're going to say our quick goodbye. Rhino says, much love. Great show. Thanks, Bobby. Hey, you bet. It's these guys. I just talk. They do I just bring you the questions. They do the talking. So appreciate everybody stopping out. Oh, wow. I don't know if we're going to have another live before Christmas. Oh, well, if I don't, Merry Christmas, y'all. Thank you guys again so much for the love with the Christmas presents and stuff. That was really hard to ask for support in that kind of a way. But again, a lot of this journey for me has been volunteer work, and I'm not out here to get rich. And the community has just really touched my heart over the last few weeks. And we're going to do this thing, guys. I love you guys. We're going to get out of here. Enjoy your family and have a great evening. All right. We're going to end it now.